Which Indian apps are spying on you?
I mean, but we've known about this, right? Like, I think there is this is again, I think, an old issue that's sort of coming up.
This one is Zepto, the undisputed champion of asshole design for.
One of the main marketing gimmick that Apple pulled off is to
And now there is this debate of AI versus art going on.
technology is an art form in itself. So I actually feel like this is great.
Every artist, they want their art form to be appreciated, seen, heard, used by people around the world.
Hmm.
If AI or this Ghiblification hadn't happened, this art form was obviously going to be present and consumed and appreciated only by a small group of people. Welcome to this week's edition of the Indian Startup Desktop. Let's go.
Hello, hello, hello. What's up?
As usual, let's start off with some funny shit from this week. Blocked by AI. Saksham Pavan, I know you've been blocked by multiple women, but look at this chap. He's the first person on earth to get blocked by an AI.
This is the first. Is this early signs of AI achieving AGI?
Okay, let's move on. You are a rapper. Oh, this is damn funny. VC is telling the founder,
Hmm.
you're just a rapper on an LLM. Founder's
Hmm.
telling you're just a rapper on an LLM. Cute, bro. This is funny.
Damn cute. I agree.
Today I learned that you can buy delivery rider clothes for different quick commerce apps on a quick commerce app. Where are we even heading? I think this must be some marketing for Blip. This
Which one's your favorite, Pete?
yeah, I'll wear Zomato. I think Zomato's looks best. You?
Have you seen that new kid on Instagram going viral? He's a Blinkit delivery boy, and he makes reels of "Get ready with me," and he's been getting a lot of popularity.
Meanwhile, let's move on to Zepto's very smart April Fool prank. They apparently had a banner which says the grand comeback, Cadbury bites, hippo chips, blah blah blah. But then you
Not
click on
cool.
it, it's Happy April Fool's Day.
Not fucking cool, guys. You can't play with emotions like this. Not cool. I
Okay.
also like the girls' frustration.
Zepto ki maki. LinkedIn hacks. So these are very exclusive viral hacks if you want to grow on LinkedIn. There's a trick that certain companies do to grow followers on LinkedIn. Companies often add fake job postings with easy apply to increase followers on the page. It's one of the fastest ways to grow the company page. Often they'll do it to give the impression to the market that they're doing well.
That's actually surprising. In fact, you know what? Very interestingly, I was talking to a friend, and he has been applying to for a bunch of jobs.
Yeah.
One of the things he mentioned to me is that just a couple of weeks ago, he applied, let's say, in two companies.
Huh?
As soon as he applied, the company's job posting got done, saying, "Okay, this job doesn't exist anymore." And then again, last week, the position reopened. So maybe this is what's happening behind the scenes, and none of us are aware about it. But it's really, really surprising.
But look at this viral hack to be the CEO of LinkedIn. Still incredible to me that LinkedIn doesn't add any verification to prove you work or previously worked at a company. You can literally just say you work anywhere. Anyway, I'm now the CEO.
This reminds me of those Facebook days where you'll post something saying happy with 59 others. Here
Oh,
I can say
God.
I'm the CEO of LinkedIn with 20 friend 20 others.
Yeah. No, this is actually true, dude. I've always thought about it. Like, some people claiming that they worked in Google, worked in Amazon, worked in Tesla. Like, they could literally be making up shit, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a easy solve though in my opinion. You could just add a work email ID and get an OTP to verify, and
Not
that's how you should be able to add this.
That won't work because you sign up on LinkedIn with your personal email ID, but I think when somebody adds a company that they worked in, the admin of the company page should be able to accept or deny, and only then it should turn up.
That also makes sense.
Look at this, dude. Something really bizarre, a little sad, a little strange. I don't know how I feel about this, but look at this shit that blew up on LinkedIn, right? Look at this picture first. Thank you, LinkedIn, for everything. Thank you, industry leaders, for ghosting and ignoring me. Thank you for making me spend money on self grooming so you can ghost me. Apologies for my post and ranting. I know with this post, no one will hire me, no matter how good I am or the recommendation received. Chanu, apologize if I hurt you. I really tried everything and begged so I could be with you. Couldn't get a job. I'm sorry. It's a little sad. Look, I'm not gonna kill myself. Have a lot of things to do, cuisines to taste, and places to visit. Just dead trying to get a job, fix things, and be with the love of my life. Being unemployed for close to 3 years and being isolated is very hard. Indian life matters. Hashtag life matters. What the fuck?
Dude, it's still sad. I don't know if I should just take this as a PR stint or to get attention, or this could also be genuine struggle and somebody is just on the verge of sort of giving up.
Look, man, we never know, right? On one side, people will do anything to get attention, but on the other end, we've always spoken about this. No, graduates from college, they aren't job ready. So there isn't any job that they can essentially just start performing on day one. There
Yeah.
requires a lot of learning that you essentially have to do on your own before you become job ready. So I don't know what the genuinity of this post is, but it's a little like look at like why would he do something like this, right? Rest in peace, hated by
This
all.
is to get attention, right? You look at the kind of engagement. If he's got about 4,000 likes, that means his post has gotten close to 500,000 impressions, and that's what the intention was, right? Even if the of those 500,000, 1% people reach out saying, "Okay, why don't you apply in my company for a job?" That's good enough.
Yeah, but I love how people are actually coming together and saying that, bro, we'll help you figure it out. Moving on to our weekly feed. Karma score. I ordered a baking bad pizza a couple of days back. The crust of the pizza was almost burned, blah blah blah. I drilled down deeper into this and I came to know that at Zomato, every customer is assigned a dynamic karma score, which decides the post translation support experience that the customer will get, be it getting refunds, proof requirements, getting to speak to a real customer support executive, etc. This karma score is determined basis commonly known factors in e-commerce like complaint rate, RTOs, order cancellation, buyer segmentation basis past transaction history, loyalty tier, etc. Crazy, right?
I think it's damn impressive. What I would still want to know is I don't know if this is something which I can go and check on my app. If Zomato were to introduce this feature where you can actually go and check this karma score.
They will never reveal it. They will never reveal it because look, somebody with a low karma score, if Zomato shows them that, they will never order from Zomato, right? Thinking that even if genuine things happen, they will never get a refund from
No, but
Zomato.
it also gives them a chance to improve on that score, right? It's almost like how a lot of these
Bro, this is this is
stockbroking apps today, right,
bro,
are
this is
giving you an
Zomato.
investment
This is
score.
food delivery platforms karma score, not a Sibyl credit score or anything like that. It's not that important.
I think it has similar value, like emotion attached to it, right? I would at least want that, okay, if my score is a 700 today, how can I increase it to a 750? Because then it also gives me a chance to actually not being able to prove if my food is bad at times.
Deepinder Goyal must have transferred some 100 rupees to you before the episode. No? Okay, moving on to Broke Baiju. So Baiju Ravindran has finally created a Twitter profile, and his first post is broke, not broken.
I have no comments. There is just so much sort of divided thoughts. Half the people are like, you don't know how many lives of middle class people you have actually
Yeah,
spoiled, or you know, in fact, lower income class folks. So please think twice before doing this. In fact, yeah, this meme exactly right, saying please बख्श दो भाई, please हमको माफ कर दो, दिल से माफी मांग रहे हैं. There's also the other side which still think that he did build a great business and he has what it takes to build a great business and he should be given another chance. But yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion on this. Pete, what about you?
Absolutely despise Baiju Ravindran and Byjus as a company. Horrible, horrible sales practice. I've watched countless videos. I've been following Pradeep Punia for the longest time, probably 4 5 years. All of these are very genuine stuff
Yeah.
that people say. These are not, stuff that people make up just to trash a company like it happens in today's age. But he deserves all the hate that he gets. I hope Byju as a company comes up and does well because it is literally a reflection on India's startup ecosystem and culture. But uh, honestly, I don't want the founder to succeed over here. And I rarely say this because I have huge empathy for founders, but never to
Yeah.
Baiju Ravindran.
Also, the way you're exploiting just it shows goes to show how much exploitation still exists in the education sector, considering how far India is behind some of the other countries in the world, right? Today, I was actually reading a stat which said that India's annual expense on education is about $12 billion, while China's expense is about $800 billion, and then we have the audacity to try and compare ourselves with the China, which is either ways a 5x, the size of economy that we have.
Yeah, we'll actually get into the India versus China in a bit because we have an interesting post around
Hmm.
that. Moving on, introducing account statements on Swiggy. Why with Mar-
Account aggregator. I'm getting a little bit of PTSD.
with Marchand round the corner, my CA called the other day asking for all my expenses. I assumed it would take a few minutes, but jumping between platforms and downloading invoices turned into a much longer task. I spoke to a few consultant friends who do this often. Turns out they spend 1 to 2 hours every week just collecting bills for reimbursements. Come on, dude. There are so many better apps that help you do this. Starting today, you can download your Swiggy account statement just like a bank statement. Head to account page, account statement on your Swiggy app. Saksham, do we really need this?
I think it's very unnecessary, bro.
Like,
And
let's
I
see.
also feel there is enough and more for us to track from an account statement perspective, portfolio, this, that, hundreds of things. I don't need to know my food statements. I can go to my bank statement and figure this out. I will use Fold Money, which will give me a breakup of the amount I've spent on food, and I'm happy with that.
Bro, why not just download your bank statement, upload it on ChatGPT, and say, just help me identify all the transactions. Then just
Yeah.
give that data to your CA. He can easily filter and figure out, right?
I agree. This is unnecessary. And I don't even know what problem this is actually solving. Like, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Or are we just trying to create a new problem?
And what percentage of your okay, fine, maybe this for the entire year. I don't know. Like, I haven't come across this at all. So maybe like we are speaking from inexperience, but
No, but I also feel what if there is a downside to this, right? What if people see their statements, let's say annual statement, and somebody realizes, oh, I've spent 3 or 4 lakh rupees just on Swiggy as a platform. My next year's financial goal is to spend less on Swiggy.
yeah.
Right? I'm sure some people will have that sentiment as well. I mean, including maybe me, to be
But there are
honest.
people who actually appreciate this, dude. I don't. Maybe like we are missing the bigger picture, Saksham, over here.
What do you think could be the problem statement here, Pete?
I mean, they just mentioned no. Like when CAs need to do end of the year filing in order to calculate expenses. Like I think more than CA, your financial advisor might need this for to help you understand how
So
much.
this is for what your Sodexo coupons that you want to essentially save on, is it? Why will you need a Swiggy invoice? It's either for the food reimbursement that you get from your work. That either ways you can track with the number of coupons. If it's typically a monthly limit, if you spend that across 12 months, you know a fixed amount already, and you
Yeah,
can only claim tax benefit on that amount, right? It doesn't mean that if you spend 4 lakh rupees on food on Swiggy in a particular financial year, you are going to get the tax benefit of that. No, right? Or am I missing something here?
I don't know. I think what you said, hit the nail on the head. But yeah, in case you folks know anything about it, please comment below.
Yep. Okay. Let's move.
Move on to our weekly chatter. This is a post that blew up on multiple social platforms, but I think it first originated on Reddit. But the India versus China debate is back. But look at the startup reality check. What India startups are doing: food delivery apps, fancy ice cream and cookies, instant grocery delivery, betting and fantasy sports apps, reels and
Hmm.
influencer economy. What China startups are doing: EV and battery tech, semiconductors and AI, robotics and automation, global logistics and trade, deep tech and infra. Actually, Saksham, before you chip in, right, let me just give my 1 minute commentary. Look, this is true, right? China is way more advanced than us. Obviously, they are doing a lot of more crazy things than what Indian startup founders are doing. But that being said, there are a lot of startups and founders and investors in India who literally spend their time, bandwidth, effort, money, everything into deep tech. Exactly what you saw what Chinese companies are doing. Yes, the scale and magnitude of it might not be comparable to the overall China economy, but we are getting there, right? We are kind of taking baby steps, but I'm sure in the next 5-10 years we will be a force to reckon with. Saksham,
I have a slightly different opinion, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about, I think, a couple of episodes earlier, which is about where is India really innovating, right? When we spoke about with the launch of DeepSeek, for example, that China has done, Indians are always sort of playing catch up, right? And what it also means is it's not that today this food delivery business or a lot of this instant grocery is not happening across different countries. But I just feel when it comes to a lot of really moving parts from a tech perspective and where the world is headed, India is not taking the sort of the first step. We are not being the needle movers. We are not being somebody who is sort of first to innovate something on. We are always just playing catch up, and it actually goes to show, right? Look at the EV and battery tech market, for example. BYD has literally opened a plant in China, which is 4 5x the size of any large city in India, right? It's a huge, I think, 4 5x the size of Los Angeles or California, if I'm not mistaken. India also has been making EVs for a while, right? I actually appreciate a lot of work that Tata and some of the Mahindra, some of the Indian companies are doing. But
Ether.
is there invest enough investment being made? I don't think so.
Look, I think it's a demand supply thing, right? Dude, and it's very unfair to come to compare India and China. Like, while yes, maybe 30, 40 years ago, India and China, from an economics size standpoint, we were pretty similar, but China has jumped, dude, leapfrogged, over us, over a bunch of different countries in the last 20, 30 years. Just look at the per capita income of India versus China. India somewhere between what, 1,000 to 2,000 dollars, and China is probably at 12,000, 13,000, right? So there is a huge gap, and in India there are a lot of people who are still in the lower middle class. In fact, not even the middle class, but the extreme of poorer segments. For them, hope sells the most. That's the reason why a lot of these startups are coming up in this space. Out of Look, out of the five industries mentioned over here now, the last two are literally companies or industries that sell hope, influencer economy, and betting and fantasy sports. Sorry, Daksham, but yeah, please make your point.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, do you also feel, and this is actually more of a question, do you also feel that today this is also maybe happening because India is not really focusing on educating the new upcoming children on AI, machine learning, and cybersecurity, which in turn is hampering innovation?
I think we need Baiju Ravindran to enter the chat and do something about it. Sorry, sorry. Okay. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's a chicken and egg problem. In order for look, education, like educating people on newer technologies, research, development, all of these are long-term goals, right? Long-term projects. Do we have the capacity to absorb the short-term hit that comes with it? I think the answer is no, and that's
I,
probably why we are seeing Indian, company
Hmm.
investors, founders, people like you and me, employees, everybody have a very short-term mindset.
I also feel just, just to sort of sum up this point, right? I think it's also to do a lot with governance because of India's sort of democratic structure and just decentralized governance. It makes it harder to implement a lot of these bold policies quickly, right? Additionally, obviously there are issues around poor infrastructure, a lot of processes that there is huge gaps in, and obviously corruption, which further sort of complicate large scale industrial projects, which obviously in a country like China, I feel is much more simplified and streamlined.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. But like, I don't think we can compare anything to China's governance, dude. You've heard the
Oh,
kind.
100%, dude. It's, I mean, like I was saying, right? We are a $4 trillion economy and China is a $20 trillion. There is no comparison. We don't stand
No, no, no,
anywhere
no.
close to them.
I didn't mean about that. I'm saying we're a democracy and they aren't. So the kind of
Okay, I mean, yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean,
yeah.
that
So
goes without saying,
the
but
grass is definitely greener on the other side, but I don't think I want that kind of model to ever be in our
yeah,
country,
yeah,
bro.
yeah. I get it, I get it.
Cool. Let's move on.
Yep.
This is a very interesting topic. I'm so sad that Power is not on this call, but over the last couple of weeks, the Ghiblification of social media happened, where a lot of people started creating photos with a Ghibli style image. And then a wave of art supporters came out and said, how can you do this? This is an art form that took years to practice, decades to hone. The creator of this Ghibli style does not want AI to use it, etc. How can you guys steal? This is pure theft, etc. And now there is this debate of AI versus art going on. And this is a post that I kind of resonated with. But look at this. AI art is art. Gatekeepers used to say digital art is not art. They said making YouTube thumbnails is not art. They don't consider comic books as a legit art form. Anything that produces something is art. Gatekeepers can go fuck themselves. Akshay, before I chip in, why don't you give me your 1 second thoughts over here?
1 second thought, huh?
Oh, sorry, 1 minute thoughts.
I actually tend to agree with Shobit here. I also feel that this comparison is not fair, right? You can't, obviously, like we all appreciate a lot of work that Ghibli and a lot of these sort of artists have
Do
done
we,
with their
do
art.
we, do we really?
Dude, I mean, in the sense that this happened 20 years ago, right? The point I'm trying to make is you can't compare the tech of today and where the world is headed with something that happened 20 years ago. 20 years ago, that was art, that was the resources available to you at your sort of disposition to for you to be able to do all of this. Today, that has changed, right? The amount of algorithms, code, testing, all of that you have to do to be able to master something like this
Yeah.
is an art form in itself, right? Technology is an art form in itself. So I actually feel like this is great.
Yeah, look, I look, and we are capitalist over here, so I don't think both of us can actually make the argument for artists. So let's just, go ahead and say that. But look, just to break this down even further, right? I actually think like this. Every artist, they want their art form to be appreciated, seen, heard, used by people around the world.
Hmm.
If AI or this Ghiblification hadn't happened, this art form was obviously going to be present and consumed and appreciated only by a small group of people. So my thought process was, doesn't the creator of Ghibli, won't he be happy that this has spread around the world? People absolutely love it. People learned about it. People now are aware of it, and now people are going to be using it. Like, I actually think people are going to be appreciating this. It's this suit
Yeah.
of art lovers who work in corporate jobs, earn very good salaries like you and me, but in some way they feel like they're an artist but took a wrong turn. That's why they're working in the corporate sector. It's those people who have a problem with it, right?
Good salaries point. Let's have a different conversation about that. So, in fact, we were having an event in office last week, and we were actually doing a more of a fintech slash Indian startup charades, right? And one of the chits that we had in charades was actually a Ghibli chit.
Okay.
Around 4 or 5 people from that group, which is fintech and here and now, and all tech first folks, didn't know what Ghibli was.
Hmm.
And if I tie it back to what you just said, right? Awareness. I don't even think majority of the people knew what this is. With ChatGPT or at least with AI, folks at least know that this kind of an art form existed. Maybe what it also means is that some of these folks might go back and actually look at some of these cartoons or animes that were made a decade or 2 decades ago. Right, which again is beneficial to the actual creator of this because now his work actually gets the kind of recognition that it should have maybe sometime earlier.
Yeah.
But again, two sides of the same coin. There's also a lot of folks who are divided to say that, uh, look at it how we have just shared so much data with ChatGPT and a lot of personal information, a lot of personal images, which you might not otherwise have even looked at or, not have shared on a platform like ChatGPT. But because it's gamified and because it's portrayed in an art form, you literally have given so much power
Oh,
to
I
an AI
actually
model.
remember one post that blew up. Sorry, I think I got it wrong. Saksham,
Hmm.
please complete.
Yeah, no, I mean that's about it, right? So obviously two sides of the same coin, but when it comes to just considering this as art, I think I would tend to agree that yes, this is sort of an art form, and in fact, it's so much more complicated and so much more nuanced to actually pull off. And the fact that it's happening in real time, right?
Oh,
That's
damn,
great.
dude. Like, it's surprising on how so many people are against this post. So a lot of people think very differently than you and me, Saksham. So maybe there is a lot for us to also learn and empathize as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, there is no right answer to something like this, right? There is the world, the folks, the opinions, it will always be divided, especially for topics which are literally like shape shifting how you look at art, how this
Yes.
actually creates a problem for designers, for UI, UX, for editors, a bunch of those folks also, right? And that will obviously create a huge sort of ripple effect across the world.
The math research papers that help generate these digital art is a bigger art than any of these artists can conjure in their basement.
Okay, on this note, shall we move on?
Yes. But look at this. Oh, this is the post that I was trying to find. Have you made your
Uh,
Ghibli image with AI? Congratulations, you have given your facial data to AI company with your consent. Sorry, this guy used the OP's picture and generated a Ghibli image.
but damn cute, bro. I though had lots of fun with Ghibli, and
Same
it's
here,
it's
bro.
so adorable.
My parents loved it. My grandma loved it. A lot of people who haven't used ChatGPT in the past, when I showed them this, they absolutely loved it, dude.
I
So
agree.
yeah,
I agree. I
and
saw
just
your picture with your two cats. Damn adorable.
okay, let's move on to our Elafda of the week. Which Indian apps are spying on you?
Which one is not is the real question.
But look at this post, okay? Did you know that until 2022, any installed app on Android could see all apps on your phone without permission? Now, devs need to declare which apps they need to visibility, blah, blah, blah. I was curious to see which Indian apps were spying on my installed apps. Let's start with Swiggy. It has a staggering 154 package names listed in its manifest file, allowing it to query these apps on my phone. Here's the full list. How was knowing whether I have the Xbox or the PlayStation app help them deliver groceries to my doorstep? The breadth of categories of apps suggests Swiggy is collecting installed apps data for user profiling and to build a behavioral profile of their customers. This is against Play Store policies, which considers the list of installed apps as personal and sensitive user data. If you have a blue tick and live in certain pin codes of Bangalore, you will remember this slide from that report. Yeah, Swiggy queries most of these apps and more on your phone. It not only knows which India you belong to, but it can pinpoint exactly where you fall within it. Yeah, little crazy, no? The next one is Zepto, the undisputed champion of asshole designs.
Oh God.
What are your
I
thoughts,
mean, but
Akshay?
we've known about this, right? Like, I think this is again, I think, an old issue that's sort of coming up. Folks have today there is a lot more awareness with people about how on Android almost every app has access to your mobile phones. I think it's a bigger issue. We should not just look at a Swiggy having access to multiple apps in your phone, but rather each of those individual apps having access to your data, right? Your SMS, your email, and all of that.
Yeah,
Which is also why I think one of the main marketing gimmick that Apple pulled off is to say that we keep your data safe. Like there is absolute privacy that iPhone provides, which
yeah.
an Android does not. So I still feel like this is an old problem, like a really old problem that's just surfacing now, which is kind of surprising to me. Like I just feel like this is very, again, 2022.
Yeah, but also like I've always heard this with lending companies that they do this, and I have a friend, Babulal, who's actually
Babulal,
fighting
yes.
the good fight, against this. So folks, please check him out. But on this note, right, I also remember in my previous job when I was speaking to a large NBFC, around underwriting, etc. They mentioned that they also track which apps are installed in their users' phone, and if the user's phone has a gaming app installed on it like Dream11, MPL, etc., then by default that particular customer slash borrower is deemed as risky borrower because they fear that this guy might use the money to gamble away.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that one of the practices in the sort of and loan lending ecosystem that also exists for collection is that if I have taken a loan from a bank, and we are talking about smaller NBFCs, for small ticket personal loans,
Hmm.
since they have access to my contacts, they will actually call one of my relatives
Yeah,
and actually do a lot of shaming to say, okay, this person who's a relative has taken a loan, he or she is not paying it back.
this
So
is
it's
the
really
problem.
about creating that social disrespect, and
Yeah,
which obviously Indians really care a lot about, to
yeah,
essentially get back the money. So I mean, there are
yeah.
n number
RBI
of malpractices that happen here.
RBI actually came down with a crackdown for these predatory collection practices. This has been spoken about in multiple forums over the last few years. But this is a big problem. In India, money is sacred. So lack of money is a extremely embarrassing scenario for any person. Like I remember reading news where this guy committed suicide because this loan shark kept calling his colleagues, employer, and just people around him from his contact list just to name and shame him. And he got to a point where he couldn't take this shame, couldn't take this embarrassment, and he, decided to end his life. Like,
But it's also a problem in India, right? I've also seen enough videos of people who have taken a loan, and there are people who just don't want to pay it back, irrespective of whatever a lender does. Right? And I've actually seen some funny videos wherein actually a collection agent goes, I think, to a tier four, tier five small village in a small household, and the woman, when asked to pay the loan back, actually suddenly starts acting like she's gone mad and like she's fainting and all of that. And those people, and then the collection officer is just standing there and he's like, "Ha, theek hai, you do all of this. I am still waiting here. When you're done, I will still ask you for my money." So yeah, it is problematic, but I don't know what the solve is. But I still feel that RBI has to again become slightly more stricter. They are, like you said, there have been a lot of NBFCs that they have flagged in the last couple of years, and they are getting strict with some of these policies. But there are still n number of these Chinese apps and a lot of these illegal apps which have access to customers' data, and it's just extremely high risk. And problem also is there is no awareness in India, right? And in a country which is as poor as India is, without the awareness, the chances of people getting exploited just go multifold.
Yeah, we're also a very credit hungry country. So the moment an app comes and says, "Hey, I'll give you 10,000 rupees," you just have to give me access to contacts, SMS, email, everything, images, everything. People are like, "Yeah, take it. Just give me my 10,000 rupees. I don't care about anything, right?"
Yeah,
It's
India
like,
has a very aspirational mindset, right? Like you're never paying for what you can afford. You're always paying for what you want to be able to afford,
yeah.
which again ties back to us being credit hungry and aspirational.
Maybe we need a little bit of China over here, dude, where the government basically tracks each and everything from how diligently you're paying your loan, how diligently you're paying your electricity bill, and everything is connected to each other, whether it's
I
public
think
transport.
people like you and I can say that we are honest, extremely, extremely honest taxpayers making very mediocre salaries. But a large part of the business economy of the country, which is actually driving a lot of outcomes, in whatever way or form, I don't think they'll be pleased to have something like this. Yeah.
Anyway, that's it from this week's episode of the Indian Startup Desktop. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel below. See you next week.
See you guys. Bye bye. Take care.
What
What's
is
my Uber rating? Pavan, I think
oh Uber?
we'll just keep you on standby only for this episode. Can't really hear you.
Okay, bro, just keep smiling and nodding and clapping. Good point. Ah, good point. Very good point, Pawan.
Very nice. Very nice.